I said, Dan, I have to go. Okay.
Sotah Aleph Vav.
Aleph. If she was dressed in white, she dresses her in black. If she was wearing gold ornaments, chokers, nose rings, or finger rings, they remove them from her in order to disgrace her. He then brings an Egyptian rope and ties it above her breast. Well, whoever wishes to watch may come and watch, except for her male and female slaves, because she is familiar with them. And all the women are allowed to watch her, for it is stated, and all the women will have been chastised not to imitate your lewdness. According to the standard in which one behaves, so what he is treated. She adorned herself for the sin, the Almighty disgraced her. She revealed herself for the sin, the Almighty revealed her sin. She sinned with the thigh first and then with the belly. Therefore, the thigh should be struck first and then the belly, and the rest of her body does not escape either. Shimshon followed his eyes, therefore the Philistines pierced his eyes, it is stated, and the Philistines took hold of him and pierced his eyes. Absalom glorified in his hair, therefore he was hung by his hair. Inasmuch as he cohabitated with 10 concubines of his father, 10 lances were thrust into him, as it is stated, and 10 men bearers of Joab's armor encircled him. And inasmuch as he stole 3 hearts, the heart of his father, the heart of the court, and the heart of Israel, it stated, Shmuel sold Absalom sold the hearts of the men of Israel, therefore 3 darts were thrust into him. And it stated, Shmuel and Joab took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them into Absalom's heart. Okay, one more.
Okay.
And so
No, now it's me.
Right. Okay.
So similarly, Mida Keneged Mida also operates on in the positive way. In fact, even more so. And we have a drasha for this. I learned from Marash Shivas at Sal Rabbi Goldfein, is that it says not say chesed la'alafim. It says in the Yud Gimel Midas of Hashem. Not say chesed la'alafim. Alafim is 2,000. Minimum. It's elef in plural. And minimum is 2,000. So if he stores chesed for 2,000, but poked avonavos, but he's poked avonavos al banim al bnei al shilishim al ribayim, only until 4 generations. So if he's going for 2,000 generations good and 4 generations for bad, then the good outweighs the bad always by 500 times. Anyway, so Miriam himtina lemoshe shachas shenimar v'tetzasef achol so merafot. So Miriam was waiting by the side of the Nile to see what would do with Moshe. And therefore, Bnei Yisrael waited for her 7 days in the Midbar. When she had saras, so they wouldn't move until she had come back into the camp. Yosef lezacha likbor es aviv ve'ein be'echav gadol mimenu. So Yosef was the greatest of his brothers, and he buried his father. Shneimar vayal Yosef likbor es aviv. So what's the midah keneged midah going to be? Vayal imo gam rechav gam parashim. Mi lanu gadol mi Yosef shelo nisasek ela bo ela Moshe. So who's going to attend to Yosef's burial was Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe zacha b'atzmos Yosef, but ein b'Yisrael gadol mimenu. There was nobody greater in Israel than Moshe. Shneimar vayikach Moshe atzmos Yosef imo. Mi gadol mi Moshe. So who's greater than Moshe? Shelo nisasek ela bo ela hamakom. That Hashem Himself buried Moshe. Shneimar vayikbor oso b'gai. That Hashem buried Moshe in the valley. Lo ha-Moshe bilvad amru ela al kol hatzadikim shneimar v'alach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Hashem yasvecha. But not just about it says not just about Moshe Rabbeinu, but all tzaddikim. It says that Hashem that that your righteousness should go before you. Kavod Hashem yasvecha, that the honor that the Kavod Hashem yasvecha, that the honor of Hashem will come and gather you up. So in other words, Hashem Himself gathers up the souls of the tzaddikim. Okay, so that's so from that little digression into the nature of midah keneged midah, we now move back to our previously scheduled story, previously scheduled programming. Perek Beis Hayamavi es minchasa b'soch katifa mitzvah. So now the husband brings the mincha offering of his wife in an Egyptian basket. Here again, Egyptian basket. Just like we had an Egyptian rope earlier, it's an Egyptian basket, again alluding to the immorality of Mitzrayim. V'nosna al yadeha kedei liyaga, and he places the basket on her hands in order to tire her out. Again, we're trying to put her through an ordeal so that she'll give up on being so stiff-necked and just confess, so that we don't have to go through the whole ritual. In general, all menachos, they always start in a klisharis and end in a klisharis. It's a fitting vessel for the temple. So even though when a person brings his mincha offering, he's not bringing it literally in a klisharis. He's bringing whatever he's got from his home. That's
Right.
tahor for kodshim. Okay, but nonetheless, whatever he brings it in is in a kli, at least it's fit for use in the temple, as opposed to this one, which is just in a basket, which would not be suitable for temple use. It starts out in the Egyptian basket and ends up in a klisharis. All of the menachos need oil and frankincense. This one neither. Okay, it has no embellishments on it. It's kind of, you get the feeling that the korban of the Sotah is a very kind of second-class citizen. It's reluctantly brought, and okay, we got to do it, but it's not nice. Okay. All the sacrifices come from wheat, except for this one, which comes from barley. That's not entirely true, because we know there is another korban that's brought from barley. Which one is that?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
The korban ha'omer.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yeah, korban ha'omer. So now, the Mishnah immediately tells us, what about the minchas ha'omer? Minchas ha'omer, af al pi sheba min ha'sorin. Yeah, okay, that one also comes from barley. Hi haisa ba geres. It comes, it's brought roasted.
Okay, it's unsifted. Right.
V'zoba kemach, and this one is just brought as flour. Rabban Gamliel omer keshem shemaaseha, and not only that, is the flour from the korban ha'omer is also very finely sifted.
Right.
But this one, okay, this one is not so much. Rabban Gamliel omer keshem shemaaseha maaseh behema kach korbana machal behema. So the drasha from Rabban Gamliel is just like her deeds were animalistic.
Right.
Animalistic in the sense that animals are not necessarily monogamous. They just mate with whoever they can mate with. And there's no real bond between them, and with a few notable exceptions of animals that pair off for life.
Penguins.
Penguins, yes, lots of birds. Actually, lots of birds are among those that pair off for life.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So this is this is her criticism, is that she acted like an animal that doesn't have any particular affinity to one mate. So now he brought a flask of new cheres, and he fills it up with half a log of water from the basin inside the mikdash. Rabbi Yehuda meant revius, and he says no, it's a half, not a chatzi, not a half a log, but a quarter log. Sorry, a half of the previous amount. So, and this is just a little memory device over here to remember that just like Rabbi Yehuda reduces the amount of water, he also reduces the amount of writing that's going to be erased into it. So we'll see that in the coming Mishnah. Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda reduces the water and he reduces the writing. So now he goes into the Heichal and he turns to his right. So there's an Amma by Amma flagstone, but Tavla Shel Shaish. There's a flagstone there with Tabas Haisakabuaba. And there's a ring set into this particular flagstone. And when he lifts it up, there's sand underneath it. So you can take some sand from underneath it, so that enough sand sprinkled on the water, so that it should be visible, floating on the surface of the water. So you must take from from the sand that's on the floor of the Mishkan and should be put into the water. Ad kan lahayom. Okay, Nazir. Nazir Vav Zayin.
What is the procedure for head shaving in Tahara? He would bring 3 animals, a sin offering, burnt offering, and a peace offering. Slaughter the peace offerings and shave upon it. And these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. But Elazar says he did not shave his head except on the slaughter of the sin offering, because the sin offering takes precedence on every occasion. However, if he shaved his head on any of the others, he discharges obligation. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says if he brought the 3 animals and did not specify the one fit for the sin and the one offering is offered as a sin offering, the one fit for the burnt offering as a burnt offering, and the one fit for the peace is offered as a peace offering, he would take the hair from his head of Naziris and cast it under the pot. If he shaved his head in the provinces, he would cast it under the pot. In regard to what is said in regard to the head shaving into Ara, but for the head shaving into Tuma, he did not cast his hair under the pot. Reb Meir says all Nazirim cast their hair under the pot except for the one who was Tameh, who shaved in the provinces. He cooked the peace offering or overcooked it. The Kohen then takes the cooked offering, foreleg of the ram, and the 1 unleavened loaf from the basket and 1 unleavened wafer, and places them on the palms of the Nazir and waves them. After this, Nazir becomes permitted to drink wine and become tameh by the dead. Reb Shimon says once one of the bloods was thrown for him, the Nazir becomes permitted to drink wine and become tameh from the dead. If he shaved, that's it. The Dharam. Okay, Zion Aleph. One who makes a net of prohibiting greens is permitted gourds. Rabbi Akiva, however, forbids them. They said to Rabbi Akiva, doesn't a person say to his agent, bring me greens? And he says, I found only gourds. And he said to them, indeed, it is so, but does he say to him, I found only legumes? It is only because bitter gourds are included under the category of greens, but legumes are not included under the category of greens. And he's forbidden fresh Egyptian beans, but permitted dry ones. One who makes a net of prohibiting dagon is forbidden dry Egyptian beans. These are the words of Reb Meir. The comment, however, say he is forbidden only the 5 varieties. Reb Meir says one who makes a net of prohibiting tuva is forbidden only the 5 grains. However, one who makes a neder from dagan is forbidden all, and he is permitted fruits of the tree and greens. One who makes a neder prohibiting clothing is prohibited sackcloth, sheets of cloth, and heavy fabric. If he said, "Kohen wool from coming upon me," he is permitted to clothe himself with wool shearings. Flax from coming upon me, he is permitted to clothe himself with stalks of flax. And Yehuda says all depends on the person making the neder. If he was carrying a load and he perspired and smelled badly, and he said, "Kohen wool of flax from coming upon me," he is permitted to clothe himself with these, but forbidden to carry bundles of these on his back. Vamos. Okay, the base Aleph. A sage, right? A sage who prohibited a woman to her husband because of a vow may not marry her. However, if she refused to perform kalitza before him, he may marry her since he is in a court. If any of these had wives who later died, they're permitted to marry them. And if any of these married others and were then divorced or widowed, they are permitted to marry them. All of these are permitted to their sons or their brothers. If there were 4 brothers and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters, and those married to 2 sisters died, they require kalitza but may not be taken in yibum. If they went ahead and married them, and they must divorce them. If Reb Eliezer says Beis Shammai say they may keep them, but Beis Hillel says they must divorce them. If one of them was forbidden to one of the brothers by the prohibition, he is forbidden to her but permitted to her sister. While the second brother is forbidden to both if it was a prohibition by commandment or because of sanctity, he requires kalitza but may not be taken in yibum. How does one separate the bikurim? If when a man goes down to his field and sees a ripe fig, a cluster of grapes, or a ripe pomegranate, he ties reed grass around it and says, "Let these be bikurim." Reb Shimon says, nevertheless, he designates them again as bikurim if they are plucked from the soil. How do they take up bikurim? All the cities of the Mamad, the city of the Mamad, and spend the night in the place of the city, and they did not enter the houses. And to the early rising, the officer said, "Arise and let us go to Zion, the house of the Lord our God." Those who brought figs and grapes, and those who those far brought dried figs and raisins, and the ox went before them with his horns gold plated and an olive crown on his head. The flute played before them until they arrived close to Yerushalayim. When they arrived close to Yerushalayim, they sent before them and bedecked the Bikurim. The supervisors, the deputies, and the treasurers went out to meet them. They went out according to the rank of those entering. And all the craftsmen in Jerusalem stood before them and greeted them. Our brethren, men of such and such a place, come in peace. Para. Okay. Zion Vav. If someone takes the rope in his hand, along his way it is valid, but not along the way it's invalid. Concerning this matter, someone went to Yavne for 3 festivals, and on the 3rd festival they validated it for him and a special ruling for that time. If he coils the rope a little at a time, the water is valid, but if he coils the rope at the end, the water is invalid. Yossi said it was in this case that they validated the water in a special ruling for that time. If someone puts away a barrel so that it should not break and he turned it over on the rim to let it dry, if he intended to fill it with it, it is valid. If he intended to use it to transport the sanctified water, it's disqualified. If someone clears away shards from inside the trough so that it will hold more water, it's valid. But if he does so that the water should not obstruct him when he sprinkles the water, it's disqualified. Okay. And welcome. We have, I think I'm missing one here. If he performed Malika and was found to be a treifa, Reb Meir says it does not contaminate with truma via the throat. But Yehuda says it contaminates with truma via the throat. Said Reb Meir, if the carcass of an animal which transmits truma through touching and carrying it, yet its slaughter rids its treifa of any truma, then the carcass of a bird, which is not transmitted truma through touching and carrying, does it not follow that its chiquita, the chiquita should surely rid of its treifa of truma. Thus, just as we find regarding chiquita that it renders permissible for eating, it also rids its treifa of truma. So too a malika, which renders permissible for eating, should also rid its treifa of truma. Now Yossi says, it suffices that it'll be like an animal carcass whose shkita cleanses it of truma and not of malika. Okay, I gotta get the other book over here. Oh, come on. If any sacrifices became mixed with katas offerings that must be left to die, or with an ox that must be stalled, even if only 1 in 10,000, they must be all left to die. If they became mixed with an ox with which a sin has been committed, either an ox that has killed a person according to the evidence of one witness, or the animal that has committed an act of bestiality, or an animal on which an act of bestiality has been formed, or with an animal designated for idolatrous sacrifice, or one which has been worshipped, or has become mixed with a harlot's payment, or a dog's exchange of mixed breed, or a treifa, or an animal born by cesarean section, they should be left to pasture until they become blemished, after which they should be sold, and with the money of the most expensive of them, he should bring the same kind of offering. If it was mixed with unblemished, unconsecrated animals, the unconsecrated animals should be sold to those in need of that kind of offering. Offerings which became mixed with other offerings of the same kind should be offered for whomever is the owner. Offerings which became mixed with offerings for a different kind should be left to pasture until they become blemished, and after which they should be sold. Then, for the money of the most expensive of them, he must bring one of each of offering and make up the difference from his own funds. If they became mixed with a bakor or masa offering, they should be left to pasture until they become blemished and then be eaten as a bakor and masa offerings. It can become mixed up with another kind, except for the katos offering with the asham offering.
Okay.
Okay. Be careful driving.
I'm not gonna run.
All right, be careful. Okay? Take care.